Good morning. This morning we're going to be understanding how microorganisms are classified. Microorganisms are tiny living things that it is not possible to see without the use of a microscope. There are 5 kingdoms in the natural world. We have looked at plants and animals. Today we're going to look at the other 3 major kingdoms, Monera, Protista and Fungi. Microorganisms can only be seen with a microscope. They're found everywhere, and many hundreds would fit on the full stop at the end of this sentence. The domain of microorganism is split into 3 kingdoms, Monera, Protista and Fungi. And inside these kingdoms we can find different creatures. Inside Monera we find bacteria mainly. Protista we find protozoa and algae. And inside fungi we find yeast, mold and mushrooms. What are microorganisms? So here we can see a magnified image of a household dust mite, which is a type of microscopic animal. We can also see plankton, which are microscopic organisms which live in the sea or in fresh water, and we can also find microscopic plants in the sea and in fresh water. This is an image of an electron microscope of a type of bacteria that is found growing on human skin, usually harmlessly. They're bacteria found in many different habitats all over the earth. This is an image of a flu virus, taken again on electron microscope. Viruses are sometimes called microorganisms, but they're not really alive. So in this lesson, we'll consider them to be unusual microorganisms. Other microorganisms are fungi, such as mold, yeast, and penicillin. Mold is a common name given to fungus that grows on food. Penicillin fungus is used to make antibiotics and medicine. And yeast is used to help make bread rise. Here we have the 3 kingdoms with images to give you an idea of the types of living things that are within each of these kingdoms. We have the kingdom of fungi with mushrooms, yeast and mold. We have the kingdom of Moneras with primarily bacteria, and the kingdom of protists with protozoans and algae. Now the main difference between protozoans and bacteria is the cell structure. If you can think back to when we were studying plants, and we learned all about the difference between a plant cell and an animal cell. Plant cells had a solid cell wall and a vacuole. Now that's kind of similar to a protist. Protozoans have a cell wall and a vacuole, whereas bacteria don't. They don't have a solid cell wall, they have a cell membrane. Okay, looking at Monera, which is the bacteria kingdom. They're single-celled organisms. They can cause illness, but they can also be helpful. Bacteria are used to make cheese and yogurt. There are 40 million bacterial cells in just 1 gram of soil. And the kingdom of Protista, protozoa. There are many different types that vary in size, shape, and how they feed and how they move. Many cause disease. The Plasmodium species is responsible for 85% of malaria cases. Malaria is a disease transmitted by mosquitoes. Algae. Now, algae is a type of plant. It's also in the kingdom Protista. It is most common in water and on surfaces of moist soil, wood and rocks. It's very diverse in structure and size and ranges from microscopic to 60-metre long kelps found in the sea. Algae is a non-vascular plant, which means it doesn't have roots, it has a rhizoid, and it doesn't have a xylem and a phloem. Kingdom of fungi is yeast. Yeast is microscopic and single-celled. It's very useful and is used to help make our bread rise. It needs warm water to activate it when you're making bread. And we have mold, which is considered to be a harmful type of fungi, but it's also used in penicillin, an antibiotic, which fights infections which are caused by bacteria. And we also have the kingdom of fungi, mushrooms, and These are microscopic filaments which grow bigger and bigger and bigger until we can see them with our eye. Obviously we can see mushrooms, but they're made up of microscopic spores which we cannot see. Fungi looks like plants, but they do not produce their own food, which is why they are not plants. Okay, we would like you to create a poster using your notes from this video about the three other major kingdoms in our natural world: Monera, Protista and Fungi. If you can use a three-way Venn diagram to accurately present any links between the kingdoms.